You know what, guys? I half don't want to do this theory because of this guy. I mean, he's just so
asinine.
Well, the first part of that was right, the ass part. Where did the Rito in Breath of the Wild come from? This question has been on the Zelda fans' lips for far too long, and I'm going to do my best to answer it for you today. A bit of a backstory here for those who are a bit confused. We first see the Rito in Wind Waker. We learn that they evolved from the Zora. So it was very confusing to a lot of fans when they see both the Rito and the Zora at the same time in the same game, Breath of the Wild. Doesn't make much sense if one evolved from the other. So first let's get right into it. Who are the Rito from Breath of the Wild? They live in Rito Village, which is near the snowy peaks of the Hebra region. They are also a warrior type race. Just like Tiba, my favourite Rito, they all learn archery and can fire arrows from mid-flight. Okay, firstly, the Wind Waker Rito and the Breath of the Wild Rito look absolutely nothing alike. They actually look quite different in appearance. So that's your first clue. Your second clue comes from the Hyrule Historia. It actually tells us where the Wind Waker Rito came from, and it quotes, "Some of the people in the era of the Great Sea underwent drastic changes in form due to tumultuous era of the past. The Zora tribe, who now bear bird-like beaks, have transformed into the Rito. They grow their wings upon being blessed with one of the Spirit Valio's scales." Could the Zora from Breath of the Wild and the Rito from Breath of the Wild both be related, the same as the Wind Waker Rito and Zora? Well, the answer is no. The Zora went extinct in Wind Waker, and the Zora in Breath of the Wild are still there. Just by looking at their symbols, you can clearly see that the Zora symbol from Breath of the Wild and the Rito symbol from Breath of the Wild are completely different. They share no similarities whatsoever. However, the Wind Waker Rito evolved from the Zora. That's why they have the same symbol. So if somehow the Breath of the Wild Rito evolved from the Zora or the Wind Waker Rito, they should at least have a similar symbol. So I've been scratching my head trying to figure out if there's a possible candidate that the Breath of the Wild Rito could have evolved from, and I found something, but you're not going to like it. It is the Okoko, I think you pronounce it? I'm not sure, but quite frankly, I think it's a mini-breasted chicken. I'm sorry, but I do have to say this right. That looks like it has about, 8 boobs. I mean, what the hell is this thing? You may have seen them in Twilight Princess, constantly hiding in jars, because that's quite literally all they can do. They're not strong or warrior-like, they're basically just useless. And it's for that exact same reason that I think the Rito evolved from the Oka, for the fact that they are a dodo-like bird. Let me give you an example. The dodo is a type of bird that went extinct because of new threats that came into its environment. However, the Oka left its safe environment up in the city in the sky to live on Earth. Well, some of them did. To where there's a lot more danger. Now, the Oka we see just hide in pots or run away, so clearly they're not going to survive too long, or here on Earth, because there's far too much danger. So they have got two options: go extinct or evolve. And that's what I think happened. I think they evolved into the Rito in order to survive, which explains why the Rito from Breath of the Wild are more warrior-like, while other Rito are seen to be postmen. Also, if you take a look at the Rito children, their infants, their body type is actually quite similar to the body type of the Oka. They both share the same duck-like body type. Now I'm sure some of you are wondering, if Breath of the Wild Rito and Wind Waker Rito are not related, why do they have the exact same name? Well, there are many animals that are not related to each other that have a very similar name. For example, pandas and red pandas. They are not related to each other, but they have a very similar name. Red pandas themselves are not actually even bears, they're more like raccoons. It is believed that red pandas are called pandas because the word panda roughly translates as bamboo eater, and red pandas and ordinary pandas both eat bamboo. And this, I think, is the same case for the Rito. If you take the first two letters of Rito, R-I, and swap it over with the last two letters, T-O, you get Tori, T-O-R-I, which translates in Japanese as bird. So that is most likely why both these species of Rito are called Rito, because they are both birds. They don't actually technically have to be related to each other just because of their name. Also, for all we know, Rito could translate as bird in some Hylian language. So here it is. The final piece of evidence, the final nail in the coffin of this theory, comes from a carving found in Twilight Princess's HD Castle Town. On first glance, it's a pretty ordinary carving, right? So you probably walked by it millions of times while playing the game and not noticed anything unusual. But if we zoom in, we see 3 panels depicting odd scenes. I won't go into too much detail, it has Gorons and people, but we see the ochre in one panel and the Rito in another. Now that's odd, seeing the Rito are only ever found in the Wind Waker games and Breath of the Wild. But this proves that the Rito evolved in different timelines, as Twilight Princess is in the child timeline and Wind Waker is in the adult. Seeing both species, the ochre and the Rito, in a carving together does sort of suggest that they have some kind of relation to each other. Perhaps the ochre who came to the surface to live in pots evolved into the Rito, and the ochre who stayed in the city in the sky stayed the way they were. Maybe that's why we see them both in the same wall carving. It's very possible that both species could have existed in the same era. Something tells me that Rivali wouldn't have such a smug look on his face if he realized that he was descended from this. Yeah, no matter what you're doing, you're not getting cooler than that. So everyone, that's my theory on where I believe the Rito from Breath of the Wild came from. It is just my theory, and it is not set in stone, but if you agree or disagree, I'd love to hear about it in the comments below. Also, leave a like, subscribe, and I'll try to get back to all of you. But listen, thank you very much for watching my video, and have fun.